guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a thriller from the USA and Chile. This is a co-production, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Eli Roth, and this film is called Knock Knock. So Knock Knock is about a very successful architect. He's got a beautiful wife, 2 children, and a beautiful home in the secluded areas of the United States. And on this particular weekend that's coming up, he's going to get the opportunity to concentrate on his own because he has a big project coming up. And if it succeeds, it's going to set the family up for life. And so the wife and children decide to go out on a holiday by themselves to give a weekend free of the noises and stresses of family life so he can really concentrate. So on the first evening of being alone, it's pouring rain and he gets a knock on the door. So when he answers it, 2 stunningly beautiful women are there. They're saturated and they say that their Uber didn't turn up and that their phones are ruined because of the rain. So that can they please use his phone? So reluctantly he allows them inside to use the phone, but then things start to transpire in a way where this man can't resist the temptation of these beautiful women. So the women start talking to him about sexualized sort of themes, and this leads to a threesome in the shower. So the next morning he's very remorseful about this because he believes that this is a possibility that his life could be ruined. So he's hoping that he'll never see these women again, but to his horror he realizes they haven't left. They're having breakfast in the kitchen. So he politely asks them to leave. He doesn't want to get too aggressive because he's worried that these women are going to tell everybody, including his family. So he has to try to be very delicate about the situation. But then when they start to refuse to leave, this is where the anger starts to build up inside him. But to his horror, he realizes that he's up against so much more because these women had a secret agenda that actually causes them to be very dangerous. And so what happens and what transpires for this man is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Knock Knock. Okay, so Eli Roth. Now this is a director that I can appreciate. He made a movie called Cabin Fever that I really enjoyed, and a movie called Hostel. Now Hostel was the first real extreme film that was hit on a mainstream level as far as I'm concerned. This is a movie that I wasn't expecting to be extreme because it was out in cinemas. And when it comes to cinemas, I always thought as though it was going to be watered down. It was going to be dumbed down to an audience so it could appeal to a broad age group. But Hostel really hit the level as far as gore and sinister sort of violence is concerned. And that's something that really opened my eyes to this director. I really liked Hostel, even though a lot of people didn't. I thought as though it was fun and it was really extreme, and so that was something I can always appreciate. So then come a Hostel 2. Now I was absolutely psyched for Hostel 2, but although the violence was amplified, I thought as though it really lacked creativity because it's basically a rehash of the first one, except genders are reversed. It's women that are going through these perils. And so I didn't think that movie was very good at all, but I could appreciate once again the level of violence that Eli Roth was pushing as far as the envelope is concerned. So Hostel 3 wasn't actually directed by him, so I'm not going to talk about that film, but then he went on to create a movie called The Green Inferno. Now I was really psyched about this because this is an inspiration from Cannibal Holocaust, from Ruggiero Deodato, and it's widely known that Eli Roth is a massive fan of Ruggiero Deodato's film Cannibal Holocaust. So I thought, is this going to be a remake of that film? And again, is this going to be as extreme as I was hoping it to be? So although that movie was extreme, it felt like a fanboy film, and this is where the doubt started to cast into my mind about this director. Does this director have a sense of self-identity? Does he create films based on his own style, or does he want to fanboy films? And so I thought Green Inferno, although it was really nasty, it just didn't have anything to it. It felt like it was trying to emulate and replicate everything that Ruggiero Deodato did, but it failed to have that sense of self-awareness. In that Ruggiero Deodato's film, it actually felt like a real film. It was very grainy, it was very ugly, it was very just morbid, and the atmosphere was extremely cruel, whereas The Green Inferno, it was a very polished film. It was very vibrant in its colouring. I never felt that uncomfortable. All I was feeling uncomfortable with is how gory those special effects were getting. So it was an exercise in extremity as opposed to actually creating something of his own style. And so the style in all of his films are actually quite lacking. I thought the first Cabin Fever was one that was very strange and quirky, but then after that he's kind of gone out of creating his own moods and and just wanting to create extreme situations. And so that was the time where I started to doubt whether or not I liked Eli Roth. And then he made the Death Wish remake, which once again suffered the problems that The Green Inferno did. It was a very violent film, but it lacked all of the charm and lacked all of the content that the original Death Wish had. You know, Charles Bronson was a completely different character to the Bruce Willis character. Bruce Willis's performance was lackluster, and that whole film was lackluster. And so I thought, okay, here we go. This is definitely a director who doesn't have a self-identity. He doesn't have his own style, and I always feel as though he's a fanboy of films that have come before him. He's a student of film, but he's failing to create his own sense of identity, his own shadow. So coming into Knock Knock, I really didn't have many expectations for this film. Keanu Reeves is in it, which I always like Keanu Reeves. He's not a great actor, but he does have that charm to him. He's definitely an action style of actor, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, where you don't need to be a great actor, but you can really enjoy their performances. And so I really enjoy Keanu Reeves. I'm a massive fan of this guy, although he is not a great actor, and being in a serious sort of role, I was really umming and ahhing about that choice. You've also got Lorenza Issa, who is a stunningly beautiful actress, and Ana de Armas, who is a stunningly attractive female as well. So these females who come into the picture, I thought, wow, these are stunning. And I thought, all right, well, this is creating something that is very interesting. I felt as though, all right, well, where is this director going to take us with Keanu Reeves as main character up against, these beautiful women, and what is going to be the theme of the story? And overall, the story is basically the temptation of lust, the temptation of what you see and trying to resist it in order to preserve what you have achieved in your life, and how one mistake can completely ruin everything. And I thought, all right, well, that was a foundation for this film to really work. But unfortunately, once again, this movie felt as though it just didn't know where to go, and it was definitely at least 3 notches down from the usual extremity that made Eli Roth watchable. And I just thought this movie was completely lackluster once again, and it didn't have the extremity to compensate for that fact. So to start off with, you do have an interesting setup. These 2 women, what are they all about? What do they want? Why have they chosen this house? And then you got Keanu Reeves' character. Is he going to resist this temptation? And ultimately, when it happens, I thought, oh no, he has completely lost everything. So is the movie going to be a suspenseful film about whether or not his family is going to find out? And then when we start to learn a little bit more about these beautiful women, I thought, okay, well, that sets up another interesting avenue. What are these women going to do? How far are they going to go? But it always felt like there was a threat there that never really comes along. And so, yes, at the end of the film, I thought, okay, well, this is, as I said, a cautionary tale, but it lacked the extremity that makes Eli Roth, as I said, watchable. And you don't have to have an extreme film, but if you're not going to have an extreme film that doesn't really, prod you with the cattle prod, cattle prod horror is where you're stunned by what you see, and it's just a shock. And Eli Roth's extremities in his previous films, they are shocking. It makes you really open your eyes and you think to yourself, wow, I didn't see that coming. So although they are superficial films, I still thought they had some place, at least for one viewing, because you are shocked by what you see. But in this film, there is nothing really shocking about it. Therefore, it doesn't compensate for the fact that this is a very shallow film. I didn't really like the aspect of these 2 women. I thought, the sex scene was quite full on, in the shower. But apart from that, it just lacked I just thought as though it wanted to push that envelope, but it was a little bit afraid to, which goes against everything that Eli Roth has done in the past. And so whether or not he wanted to branch this out to a broader audience, I don't know. But I thought as though by the end of the film, I was cheated. I just felt as though this is going through the motions. It was running off his name. He's made films previous. He knows he has a fan base. And Knock Knock was just a really lackluster, superficial experience. It's very well made. I thought Keanu Reeves' performance was quite questionable, as I was expecting. He's not suited to these serious sort of films. And there was just some of the script that came out of this character's mouth was actually quite laughable and it wasn't really intending that. And I thought the beautiful women, there was just nothing to them. They were very good to look at, but that was it, basically. And so there's a lot of mystery surrounding this whole situation that just doesn't come about, and it doesn't explain itself to a level where you can't even really interpret what this film is about. So it's just a movie that goes through the motions. I was very, very disappointed by it, and I believe that this is yet another example of the fact that Eli Roth doesn't have any idea of his self-identity, what he wants to make as far as a filmmaker is concerned. He fails to make his own shadow, and Knock Knock is definitely one of the most disposable films I've seen in a very long time. Apart from that sex scene, the movie's not extreme at all, and as I said, if you're not going to have an extreme film, have a very interesting story, very interesting characters, and a very interesting sort of progression of that story, but unfortunately everything falls flat. I wasn't that interested. I couldn't relate to anything that was going on, therefore it just became a bit of a waste of time, I hate to say. I wanted to like the film, but unfortunately I didn't, and as a result of that, I'm only going to give Knock Knock 1 star. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.